Today we're going to try to recreate the Spotify Wrapped 2025 visuals.
Dreadlabs.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs and I'm a visual artist and graphic designer. Spotify Wrapped 2025 just came out yesterday. So in this video, I will show you how to create it in Adobe Illustrator and how to make the animations in After Effects. But if you want to just use this for a template and you don't really want to go through all this video and learn how to do it yourself, you can also get the work files from me for the price of just a cup of coffee. The link for that will be in the description down below, but if you want to do it yourself, let's dive straight into the video. Alright, you can see that I've already been experimenting with this in After Effects, and this is the main animation visual that they use now. It's like this weird loopy inverted expanding circle thing. I'm gonna get into this later. First, I want to show you how to do the basics in Illustrator. So we're gonna start out with a new blank canvas in Adobe Illustrator, and right off the bat, what I'm gonna do is make a rectangle that covers the whole size of our artboard, and the artboard is an Instagram story size or the usual vertical video size, but you can of course use any size you want. And I'm gonna switch the stroke color here and remove that for a second, so now all we have is this white rectangle. And I think what they use is this really light gray, so I'm just gonna dial in like 95% brightness, so it's just a little bit off that white. And let's start by dropping in a picture. And for me, I'm just gonna drop in a picture of myself here. If you wonder why I'm just looking like around here, for example, I'm just literally like holding my phone with my Spotify Wrapped here so I can just reference it from time to time. And I think, I'm not really sure, but the font I'm gonna use is Futura 100. And I'm just gonna make the text layout real quick. And while I'm doing this, I'm just gonna lock the background rectangle here. I'm gonna hold Alt or Option on our keyboard and click and drag these down. And I'm going to repeat that by pressing Control or Command D on our keyboard. And the top ones where it actually would say top artist, it should be a little bit lighter, I think around maybe medium. And actually they're also a tad smaller, I think, or at least a little bit above here. And I'm just going to dial in the artists and everything for my own, so it doesn't say like top artist 5 times. And I think these at the bottom should be a little bit larger and completely bold. Maybe not actually. Looking at it now. Alright, so it does look something like this at least, and I'm just gonna align this to the middle. Then let's start out with like the 2025 here on the edge. I think the picture should be a bit bigger as well. Let's do Helvetica Neue 93 Black Extended, and then all I'm gonna do is click on the character here and space the text out so that it's like covering over each other. And now I'm gonna press E on my keyboard, and I'm just gonna make it like slightly flatter and then skew it just a little bit. So now kinda is similar. And then I'm gonna grab the whole thing and rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm holding Shift to rotate in increments of 45 degrees. So now it's on its side. Actually, what I'm gonna do first is grab the background, select it, go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and then just like go in maybe 50 pixels. Let's do 60 for now. And I'm gonna also make this, I'm gonna switch the color so that there's no foreground color in the fill, and then the stroke will be black. And I think that this stroke is also like not perfectly black, so I'm just gonna go like, let's do 16, 16, 16. So I'm gonna do the same for all of the text that we've done so far, so 16, 16, 16. So I think we go like this, and now the cool part is that the text is actually like outside of the boundaries a little bit. Like this. And now I'm going to show you how to do the coloring properly. So I'm going to remove the fill by pressing slash on my keyboard. So now there's like text here, but there's no stroke and no fill, as you can see on the side here. Now I'm going to go to the appearance panel, and if you cannot find it, it is under window appearance. I'm going to add a stroke, and we'll do like 5 points for now, and then I'm going to add a fill, and we're going to make the fill, it's like a slight yellow or something like that. So let's go with that. Something like this, I think. And then the stroke, we're gonna make that a little bit thicker, maybe like 7 points. And we'll just make it rounded as well. So the cool part about this is like if we make this bigger, the fill will always be in front of the stroke because we've done so here. So we can also like move this over if we want to. But this usually gets like this weird effect where the letters start overlapping, and we don't really want that. So let's go back, and I think 5 is this works, I guess. So next thing, I'm gonna select this like frame that we've built and the text, and I'm gonna go and press Control or Command 7 on my keyboard, and that brings up a clipping mask, or that makes a clipping mask, and I did it the wrong way. So we bring these to the front, and in our layer menu, it's like behind my head here. The rectangle needs to be in front of the text. So I'm gonna go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make, and now the text is like covered in the clipping mask. And we can open the clipboard group here and click on the rectangle, and we're gonna add in that same stroke again. So we're gonna make it like 1 point, or maybe was it 2 points? I'm not sure. So let's lock the background again, and we'll move this down just a little bit. I'm not really gonna bother with the Spotify logo and the spotify.com/rep. You can add it yourself in Illustrator if you want to. So one thing that I'm still going to add is like the weird thing that I showed you in After Effects, as well as the like scribbling. So let's start out with the lines here. So I'm just gonna go and hide my picture for now. And I'm gonna make a rectangle of where I want this like colored thing to be. And I think something like this is fine. This works. Let's just make this an outline so we know where the boundaries of this like little art box go. And I'm gonna make an ellipse, and I'm gonna make the ellipse in the middle of this like rectangle. I'm gonna select both, click once on the rectangle, and then align it to the middle. So now this is like key object. All right, so now what I want to do is, okay, I'm not gonna make a fill actually, thinking about it. I'm just gonna make a stroke. So I'm pressing Shift X on my keyboard to turn the fill into a stroke. I'm gonna do this, and we'll like put the stroke alignment inwards like this. And then what we can do is go to Object, Path, and then to Offset Path, and then we're gonna do a positive of maybe like 100 pixels. And to repeat this again, I actually mapped my offset path to Control-5, as you can see. If you want to know more Illustrator shortcuts or want to learn how to do your own, I actually have a video on it. But for now, I'm just going to go and repeat this action a couple of times. So like this. So we'll group these, as you can see here in the menu. We'll move these underneath the rectangle, and I'm going to select the rectangle with it and press Control-7 again to bring up the clipping mask. And then with this group, we're going to like play around with it a little bit, see what works and what doesn't work. I think this is nice, actually. This works. And select the rectangle again from the clipping mask, and we'll do the same thing as here. So we'll just give this a stroke as well, so it's nice and bordered there. And looking at it now, maybe it's just a little bit too much, so we can always just delete every other circle or something and like make the next one bigger. So let's go in here, and we'll just make these all thicker, so maybe like 80% or something. And we'll just do one more with 200 pixels then. And now we can play around with the shape of these. I think this is a little bit better. So now all we need to do is get that cool like inverted effect. And the way we can do that is right click and go to the rectangle tool. And we'll just make a couple of rectangles. So I'm just gonna hold Alt or Option if you're on the Mac on my keyboard, click and drag. And we'll just do a couple of these. So let's select the top one here. And we'll select all of these, and then we'll go to the Align tab, which is over here, but I need it in my properties. Click on the little dots here, and then distribute the space evenly, this little icon. And now there's the same amount of space in between all these rectangles. And now all we need to do is go to opacity, click on the blend mode, and then click on, where is it, difference. And then I think we just need to make the color white. And there we go. And this is kind of like that effect that you have on like the Spotify Red thing. I'm gonna grab the rectangle here, and I'm just gonna copy this and remove the fill. And now I'm gonna press Command or Control F on my keyboard to make a copy of that same rectangle, but now it's in the front. And now I'm gonna make the same stroke color as this one. That's the wrong rectangle actually. So let's copy this one, and we'll just go like this. Now it's in the front, and now we'll just use the eyedropper tool. There we go. All right. And let's bring back the picture as well, because now that's in the back. And I think we just move it in a little bit. All right, so now all we need to have is these scribbles, and then I'm going to show you how to make the animated version of those circles again, as well as how to animate the scribbles that they've done. And actually these scribbles, there's not really that much to it, to be honest. I don't think you would even need a drawing tablet for this, and you can just grab the brush tool by pressing B on your keyboard, and then just making sure that your brush stroke like looks a little bit like this. You can just change the stroke width here or here. So my settings are 2-point uniform and 3-point round here. And if you double click on it, if you move this slider towards accurate, this is what happens. So your stroke gets a little bit scribblier. And for example, if you move it all the way over to smooth, like it will smoothen out, as you can see. So I think the first one actually looks a lot better with this style. So I'm just gonna go and scribble around. And there we go. And now I'm just gonna select all of these and move them behind the picture here. They are displayed over the text here, but they are part of that same clipping mask. So what I can do is just group them together and then just move them into this clip group where the text is also a part of it. And that should do it. And we can also just make sure that we select all of these in our group here and play around with the stroke width if you really want to. Maybe like 0.5 is just a bit better. They are also part of like that weird negativity thing right now, and that's just because the colored or the rectangles are placed over the ones in this clipping group here. So we just need to select this clipping group and put it over here. And these rectangles need to be like behind that clipping group. So if we go like this, then they're all just black. So yeah, there we go. Now let me just show you how to animate these. And in order to animate these, I'm just gonna go grab these scribbles and I'm just gonna go and move them to the asset export window. If you cannot find this, again, go to window, export, and we'll just drop this in. For some reason it's not doing that, so let's just copy one and move it. I think maybe it's because it's part of a clipping group, but let's just paste this in and then drop it over here. There we go. And we'll call this scribble and let's export it. And I'll see you back in After Effects. So we're here in After Effects. Let's just delete all of this for now. Delete. So we can just work from scratch. Well, the first thing I'm actually going to do is make a new composition, same size as before. A frame rate of 25. I'm just going to change this to 30 because I prefer 30. Spotify wrap animation. And then we're going to import the scribble that we just had made with Illustrator. There we go. We'll drop this in. And I'm also going to add in a white solid layer. Put that in the back so that these scribbles are actually in the front and fairly visible. So let's open up the scale tab here. And we'll hold Alt or Option here. And then we'll type in wiggle 12 1. And this should get us this like wacky little effect, I guess. And what this is doing is it's basically 12 times a second. It's changing 1% or between 0 and 1% of the scale of this image. So if we would put this to this 1 to like 10, it would change a lot more drastically. And if we would change the 12 to 6, then it would change more slowly. So let's go with maybe, yeah, let's just try 10 and 1 or 6 and 1, sorry. All right, so I've just played around with it and I think a wiggle of 3 times per second and then 2% in the scale will do fine. Next, what I'm gonna do is add an adjustment layer. So we're going to layer, new adjustment layer, and we can just apply any effects to these and that will be applied to everything underneath. So let's just search for posterized time and we'll drop that on here and we'll change this frame rate to 12, and this will just fake it so that the frame rate's lower, so it gets like that squiggly like frame by frame effect, I guess. As you can see, it's like a lot more jittery now. And you can play around with these settings if you'd like. You maybe can up the frame rate. Maybe this is just too slow, so let's just change this back to 6, I guess. What we can also try to do is put on a turbulent displace onto the scribble, and we'll just do this a lot more subtle, and then we'll just hold Alt or Option and click on the evolution, and we'll type in time times 300. As you can see, now it's a little bit more squiggly and it moves just a little bit more. So we'll just call this frame drop and we'll call this white background. And let's just select the top of these and we'll just pre-compose these and we'll just call this wiggle pre-comp. So that we now have a separate wiggle layer, if that makes sense. And now let's get started on the animated circle. So we'll just hide this for now and we'll make a new shape layer. And what I usually tend to do is I'm just gonna change this to fit, is I'm gonna just make a ellipse here. I'm just gonna double click on the ellipse tool, and under the ellipse here, I'm gonna click on the path and I'm just gonna change the path to something like maybe 50 by 50 pixels. And I'm just gonna go and animate that. So I'm just gonna click on the little link here again, click on the stopwatch next to size, and then at like 13 seconds, is it 13? Not sure why it's 13, but oh well. Let's just move that all the way towards that's outside of the screen. So now we have this animation. next, what we need to do is search for the echo effect. And we need to play around with these settings just a little bit. I think a -1 will just put in a second echo, a second after the other one. So this all has to do with the speed of this thing. So the number of echoes, let's change that to 10, and this will make it so that every second a next circle will appear. We'll just do composite in back here. So every other second there's a new circle appearing, as you can see on the screen right now. So this gets that kind of like that hypnotic effect. So if you want to change the space in between these, let's just check the reference again. I haven't checked it in a while. There's just a little bit more space in there, so maybe we'll make it wait a little bit longer for it in order for it to appear. So let's just do -1.2 seconds, maybe -1.5 seconds. So this is what this animation then would look like, and this will go on until there's like 10 copies of the initial circle. So at some point it will just stop. And I think, yeah, we don't really see that because our thing is 13 seconds long. That doesn't really matter. This is just the base of the animation. And we're gonna do the next thing as well with the rectangles that we just did earlier in Illustrator as well, where this thing will be inverted. So let's just go and drop in a new adjustment layer. And we can actually just use the same one to keep our project file nice and tidy. So we'll just go in our project bin, go to the solids and just drag in this adjustment layer. And then if this is turning white, all you need to do is click on this little circle right here to make it invisible. So now only the effects appear. And let's just search for invert. So if we click and drag and drop this onto our adjustment layer, this will just invert the blacks and the whites. And the next thing I'm just gonna do is add in some masks. So I'm just gonna go back to the rectangle tool and double click on it. And I'm just gonna name this first layer circle. And this is the adjustment layer with the invert. So one little trick, I'm just gonna make the rest of this thing shy. So the wiggle scribbly thingy and the white background, I'm just gonna go hide those. So we're gonna click on this little icon here and then toggle this on, and this makes them shy. So they will just be away and your workplace just looks a little cleaner. So like I said, circle and invert, we have that here. So we're just gonna go double click on the mask and then click on the shape here. And we're gonna just press in some settings. So this is basically where the mask is appearing. And I just wanna have this appear until the first 180 pixels on the left from the top to the bottom. So as you can see, this is the mask now. And I just want to duplicate this a couple of times. So I'm going to select mask number 1 and then click Control or Command B, and this will add in another mask, and just click on this shape, and then we'll just do 360 by 360 plus 180. And as you can see, these are now 2 masks here, and just do this one more time. I will just click on the shape here. I will do, let's see, 540 plus 180 and then 900. And there we go. This is actually how this would work. And as you can see, we now have these like placed inversions, which turn into this pretty cool effect. So there's a couple of things that are at work here. If you've never worked with After Effects before, this might just be a little bit complicated, but it's fairly basic stuff when it comes to like what's being used here. So if you want to have like more of these like inversion bars, what I would do is, rather than just pressing these in every single time, is I would just change the anchor point to 0 here from the left, and then just align this thing to the left with the align here in the bottom right. And then I would just go here and click on the S on my keyboard to bring up the scale, and just remove this little link, and then just scale this, for example, to 50%, and then duplicate this and just align it to the very right, and then just have it rotate 180 degrees. And align it again. So now you have this, like, you have even more of these inversions. And to be honest, this is just like because they've done a lot of different variations on this specific graphic, but the basics of this are essentially the same as that I've just demonstrated in this video. So I would highly recommend just play around with it and see what works for you and what you want to use this for. I reckon that this is mostly a lot of designers or content creators wanting to do something Spotify rep teams for their channel or for their own music career or whatever. And like I said, if you want to use the work file that I made in this video for yourself, you can get it through the link in the description down below for just the price of a cup of coffee. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're interested, I would highly recommend checking out more videos on my channel because I have literally over hundreds of tutorials in Illustrator, After Effects and Photoshop. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. This is Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.